So I think we all can agree here that the Cincinnati Bengals completely botched, fumbled the whole entire Trey Hendrickson situation. Trey Hendrickson was a guy that led the league in sacks last season. The year before that, tied the league in sacks. Was promised that, hey, you know what, we're going to do right by you. We're going to take care of you. At points, the contract got close. Came down to guarantees, and it came down to, were the Bengals willing to budge? Clearly, they are not, per report from Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissero, and Jordan Schultz, that, the Bengals are at a point now where they're listening to trade offers for Trey Hendrickson. Here's what I think. Trey Hendrickson is deserving of every single penny that he should have been paid here by the Cincinnati Bengals. Waiting for a guy who clearly is still playing at a top level to fall off, all because of his age, and being unwilling to guarantee money into that second year because we're almost anticipating the fall off. Well, that's not a sign of good business. And that screams a loud message to players moving forward, to potential free agents moving forward, that, hey, you know what? You are going to have to fight for every single penny here in Cincinnati. You're going to have to scratch and claw for every single penny. And, I understand both sides of the business. I really, really do. But I really side with Trey Hendrickson on this because you told him you would take care of him. And that hasn't been done. But listen, you know, can't cry over spilled milk, water under the bridge. You're at a point now where you're listening to trade offers for him. So this brings me to my next point. What should the Bengals be looking at to get back for a guy like Trey Hendrickson, who still is at the top of his game? Well, for me, I think you have to look at the weakest unit on your football team right now, which is the interior offensive line. The offensive line in general could use an upgrade of some sort. To me, which makes sense, is potentially getting a young player there, right? That makes a lot of sense. People talk about getting future assets, right? That would have made a lot of sense, especially last season when you only had 6 draft picks, right? That would have been great for you. For me, though, I think that the Bengals would feel a lot better if they were able to secure an offensive line. Some of the teams that have been speculated to be interested, right? Browns, and mark them off the calendar a lot unless they're willing to give you a complete haul that's going to really weaken their team. You're not trading him in division, right? Talk about the Colts. There's a name that sort of pops up to me, Quentin Nelson, right? About a 2.5 hour drive down 275, so to speak, for a guy, Quentin Nelson, to come to Cincinnati. That would make a lot of sense. But where is he at in his career? How long does he want to play? Because also trading for a guy like Quentin Nelson will go against your philosophy of paying guards top dollar. And Quentin Nelson is truly one of the better guards in the National Football League. Although some of my constituents in Indianapolis thought that he took a step back last year, Quentin Nelson is still one of the best guards in football. But will the Bengals be willing to pay that price tag for Quentin Nelson's services? I don't know if I see that. Then you got the Panthers that's interested. Well, are they willing to part ways with some of their younger talent? Are they willing to part ways with an Icky? Right? I don't think so. Right? So it creates a very interesting dynamic to see what team might be interested in the service of Trey Hendrickson. You can always look for interior guys. You can always look to add another pass rusher, but I don't know how many teams are willing to part ways with pass rushers right now. Um, what this also means is that means Shamar Stewart better be ready to play. Shamar Stewart, Miles Murphy, Joseph Asai. Guess what? The time is now. Your numbers are going to be called. The expectation is for you guys to be the primary pass rushers here in Cincinnati and get the job done. So that's a lot of pressure on those guys to get it right out of the gate. This is going to be interesting to see how this whole thing breaks out. I got to be honest, though. The timing couldn't be any worse, right? The season's about to start. Players are getting ready to be settled with their team. And now a team that's supposed to be competing for a Super Bowl is somehow going to be trying to compete within themselves to tell their team, hey, you know what? We're still locked in. This is still a Super Bowl team. We're still ready to achieve the ultimate goal. Everybody in that organization, everybody in that locker room knows what Trey Hendrickson means and meant. We're talking past tense to the Cincinnati Bengals. It'll be interesting to see how this whole thing shakes out. Let me know in the comment section what you guys' thoughts are.